Welcome to the adaptive equipment session. This is a really important topic for the NBIA community, and there are changes all the time in technology that are making people's lives easier. I am really pleased to have with us today Canna Stanley. She is an occupational therapist who lives in New York. She has a master's degree from Boston University. And important to us, she works with children who have neurological and neurodegenerative diseases. So she's a perfect match for us. I'm going to step into the background now and let Canna take it from here, and then we will be back with questions. I'm sure you all have lots of questions about the appropriate equipment for your child. So stay tuned, put your questions in the chat, and we'll be back shortly. Thank you.
Hello everyone, my name is Canna Stanley and I'll be doing a presentation on an introduction to adaptive equipment. I hope everyone is well and thank you so much for having me here today. A little background information about me. I'm a pediatric occupational therapist and product consultant for AdaptiveMall.com. And AdaptiveMall.com is an online store that sells adaptive equipment for children and young adults with special needs. And I provide families with some sizing help and answer any questions they have about our products. My previous work experience includes long-term care for children, specialized school settings, and working with adults and children with developmental and neurological conditions. I'm also a first-time mom, so I really understand the importance of community, which is why I'm so excited to be here at this conference and hopefully can be a helpful resource for everyone watching. The learning objectives of this presentation include defining adaptive equipment, identifying examples of adaptive equipment, understanding the role of the medical and therapy team, and exploring some resources for funding. And I'll be using the term child and user throughout the presentation, but some of the equipment can also apply to the adult population as well. So let's define the term adaptive equipment. Adaptive equipment is any device that supports the musculoskeletal system and improves participation and independence in daily activities. And as a pediatric OT, I like to think of these activities as meaningful occupations, such as participating in play and leisure and just being at home and in the community. What are some examples of adaptive equipment? So this list is definitely not exhaustive, but we have bathing chairs, toileting systems, adaptive seating systems, strollers, car seats, standers, recreational equipment, wheelchairs, different types of sensory equipment, and orthotics like splinting and bracing, et cetera, et cetera. So what should you consider when selecting adaptive equipment? And we'll definitely be using this checklist as we look at some real life examples. But something that we can look at is cost. Are there low tech versus high tech options? Are there creative ways to address positioning that can save on money and time? Growth potential. How quickly will the child or user outgrow the type of equipment? And is there something that can last a little bit longer? Portability and size. Are you able to move the equipment from place to place? Is it going to school? Is it going to stay at home? Is the equipment going to grandma's house, or all of the above? And how much space will you need? Material and comfort. Is the material of the equipment comfortable for the user? Is it easy to clean? Ease of adjustment and modification. Is the equipment easily adjustable or modified for different changes in size? And multi-purpose use. Is the equipment able to be used for different purposes? So now we'll look at specific examples of adaptive equipment. We're going to start with standers. So standers are adaptive equipment that places the user in a standing position, as you can see in these pictures of the Riften stander. And there's so many different benefits to standing. The research has shown that standers improve breathing, digestion, and social interaction. And actually putting the child or user in a standing position encourages both bone formation and prevents long-term fractures. And also having students or children at eye level can increase peer interaction. So looking at standards on our checklist, they definitely offer the ability to grow and adjust with the child. And even though they're large pieces of equipment, they can be moved around from home or in different classrooms. We'll now look at adaptive seating. The purpose of adaptive seating is to provide a comfortable and safe seat for children that may need extra support sitting or sitting up. They can also be used for different therapy goals, such as feeding sessions, trunk strengthening, and positioning. And they can also be used as an alternative seating when a child needs a break from their wheelchair. And this is an example of adaptive seating. This is the Special Tomato Soft Touch Sitter. And as you can see in this picture, the child is using the sitter on the mobile base. And the sitter actually comes on mobile bases, stationary bases. And as you can see on the right, it can be put on a floor wedge and placed on the floor so the child can interact during circle time and engage with peers. And then these are more pictures of the Special Tomato Soft Touch Sitter. There's a safety harness you can see. It comes in a variety of colors. There's the optional headrest and the activity tray that can be used. And when we think about material and comfort, the Special Tomato Soft Touch Sitter looks like hard plastic, but it's actually a very comfortable foam for the child to sit in. And it has multiple uses and can be put on a standard chair at home. And it's lightweight and portable. Another seating system is the Inspired by Drive P-Pod. And this is a modular seating system that has a beanbag covering, which is really comfortable just to chill out at home in the living room with family. And it's also great to be a comfortable spot to take a break from the wheelchair. Or if the child has sensory needs, it's a very calming place for the child to sit. I wanted to show some more low-tech and creative and cost-effective options. So this is an example of a floor sitter that's been made entirely out of cardboard, and it was designed by the Adaptive Design Association. And they're just a really great organization. I've been able to visit them in person, and they do a really amazing job creating this affordable equipment for families. And there's actually similar programs in different states across the country, and I'll include some of those resources at the end of the presentation. So moving on to self-care, we have our bath chairs. So bath chairs are designed for safe bathing while also supporting the user's body. They provide postural support and safety features such as safety belts, headrests, and adjustable recline. They can be folded or rolled into a shower if needed, and usually they're made out of a very easy to clean material. And in these pictures, you can see a child sitting in the Otter bath chair, which is Inspired by Drive. And he's using the safety features like the seat belts and the headrest. And then you can also see a picture of the Otter bath chair reclined if a child has low muscle tone and they need to be supported in that way too. We also have toileting systems. So the purpose of toileting systems is to safely transfer and position the user for toileting. This is the Riften HTS, which is a system that could be mounted on the toilet. It can be used as a shower chair. It can be folded up as a portable commode. So it definitely has multi-purpose use. And I've actually used this system with patients in a variety of settings like the school and the hospital. And it's very intuitive and very easy to clean as well. And then on the more basic end of toileting systems, we have the Special Tomato Portable Potty Seat. And it's made out of the same material as a Special Tomato Soft Touch Sitter, which is really comfortable and allows users to be able to sit for toileting for longer periods of time. And you can carry it around. It also comes with a hygienic bag, making it very portable too. Now we're going to talk about transportation and community access. So a lot of families request adaptive strollers, which are designed like regular strollers, except they include some positional support and really great accessories. This is the Special Tomato EIO push chair. And it has, in this picture, you can see the purple supportive cushion inserts. They have a safety harness for positioning. The footrest can be elevated or reclined. And the weight capacity is 90 pounds, and there's a 50-inch height maximum. Sometimes for adaptive strollers, families need other medical accessories like oxygen tank holders, IV poles, or maybe positioning accessories like a lap tray. And this is from the Leggero Reach adaptive stroller. And then I just wanted to include some other examples here. We have on the left the Conveyed strollers, and they're actually tested to be used safely on bus or transportation, and they have tie downs that you can include. And then on the right, if families want to go out for a jog or be outside, we have Adaptive Star jogging strollers. Moving on to adaptive car seats. Adaptive car seats provide safe postural support when traveling in the car. And this is the special Tomato MPS car seat. And the material is made out of supportive contoured cushioning. It has 6 years of growth because the cushions actually come in a variety of different sizes. It's easily adjusted because it has a hook and loop track system, so you can adjust the position of the cushions and also the pelvis alignment. And it's been crash tested and can be safely used on an airplane as well. Here are some more examples of some adaptive car seats. On the right, you can see one that includes a lap tray and foot positioning. And then on the left, you can see more head positioning and trunk support for the children. So as you can see, there really are a variety of different types of adaptive equipment and styles. So who can help you select adaptive equipment? So ultimately, the child and the family make the final decision, but you can definitely reach out to teachers, therapists like OT, PT, speech, respiratory, and vision educators, your medical team like your doctor, pediatrician, or nurse, manufacturers of the equipment and different vendors, and then social work and case management can also help you. Adaptive Mall is also here to help. We have a free resource called Size Help, where parents fill out a size help form with measurements, and then the therapists review the measurements and provide sizing of the different products. And parents select products directly from the Adaptive Mall website, and I've included that link below. So now I'm going to go over some different funding options for adaptive equipment. And this is the common order that people usually use when they're trying to find funding. But as some of you know, sometimes alternative resources are much faster, or sometimes insurances. It really depends on the family and what they want to do. But private health insurance and Medicaid can cover funding if it's deemed medically necessary and there's a prescription from the physician. There's alternative funding resources, which we'll talk about in a few minutes. The Individuals with Disabilities Education Act, or IDEA, states that assistive technology, which is an umbrella term for adaptive equipment, must be provided at no cost under the child's IEP or IFSP. And if there is a denial at any point for the equipment, an appeal can definitely be submitted. And there's also protection advocacy programs that can help you make the appeal. And I've included these resources as well at the end of my presentation. So going back to alternative funding, you can definitely submit a grant for funding equipment. The different states all over the country have equipment loan programs where you can trial different types of equipment. There's nonprofit organizations like Make-A-Wish, Wheel to Walk, or Easter Seals. And Adaptive Mall has a funding program, which I'm going to talk about, called Kiddie Pool. So Adaptive Mall's Kiddie Pool is a free service that works like a fundraiser, and the child gets a custom webpage with their photo, story, and then the specific products they would like from Adaptive Mall. And family and friends can directly on the website, they can make their donations, and parents are emailed each time a donation is made. And this is a great website to share on social media platforms to really get the word out there, like Facebook or Instagram, things like that. And there's a link to the Kiddie Pool sign up below as well. And then here's just an example of what the kiddie pool would look like. You would have a picture, and then friends and family can make a donation. They can make it anonymously or include their contact information. And it will also show pictures of the specific equipment that you're looking for. So in summary, the goal of adaptive equipment is to increase the independence and participation in daily activities. At times, it can be very overwhelming to select equipment and move through the funding process, so definitely reach out to your medical or therapy team for guidance. And Adaptive Mall and other resources in your community can also help you find the equipment you need. And I'll just close with some references and helpful links that I talked about in my presentation. We have some links from Riften and Adaptive Mall, and also information about funding and alternative sources. And that's it. So if anyone has any questions, you can also email me at kana@adaptivemall.com. Thank you so much, everyone.
Thanks for that great presentation, Kana. I learned some stuff that I didn't know too about adaptive equipment, and I see that you've been answering some of the questions already. And I just want to reiterate them for people who aren't using the chat that you provided some financial assistance links there, and you also mentioned that there are some state-based programs where they will loan equipment for you to use on a trial basis. And you gave a very helpful thing here by saying if you Google adaptive equipment loan program and then put the name of your state in there, you should be able to get that. What was the name of the company, I guess it was, or maybe it was a nonprofit that made some of the less expensive equipment?
Sure, it's called Adaptive Design Association. It's based in New York City, but I included at the end of my presentation, there are other programs that are similar in different parts of the country. So you can definitely look at that. And if anyone wants to email me for the links and the resources, you can do that as well.
Yeah, that you provided your email address in here in the chat. So that's great. We've got a question asking, is there anything you know about adaptive recreation equipment like bikes, scooters, that sort of thing?
Yeah, there are definitely a lot of options for that. There's adaptive tricycles that can be used with young children and adults that are really great. And that's a very popular item from Adaptive Mall that you can look up. Riften makes a really great adaptive tricycle. Yeah.
What about communication equipment? A lot of our kids have, needs for communicating, and NBIA individuals in general do. What do you know about what's the latest, best stuff for communication?
Yeah, a lot of children will work with their speech therapist to figure out what type of communication is the best mode for them. But any type of assistive technology like switch devices and computer use, things like that can be really helpful for kids that are working on their communication skills. And that's considered assistive technology as well. So that can be something that can be funded. Unfortunately, Adaptive Mall doesn't have that type of equipment, so you wouldn't be able to do Kiddie Pool for it. But there are other websites that provide that type of adaptive communication equipment.
Good. Okay. And I don't know if you can recommend any companies or the best place to look for that sort of thing, but I know that's an evolving area as well.
Yeah, Fun and Function is a great website. Special Needs has some great products as well. But if you just do a Google search and type in, AAC device or something like that, you can definitely find a bunch of websites.
Anna, you had a list of resources at the end, and it would be great if they could somehow be pasted into the chat for people to copy.
Okay,
I don't know if you can maybe do that, but also, yeah, go ahead.
Maybe I can type in my email address. So if people want to contact me directly, would that be helpful?
Yeah, and I see it right here. It's Canna, CANNA at adaptivemall.com.
Yeah, I'll put it right here for everybody.
Okay, great. We've got a question. Where should I start with the ridiculously expensive wheelchair accessible vehicles?
Oh, getting your own transportation device, I guess.
Where's ridiculously expensive wheelchair access? Yes, wheelchair accessible vehicles. So a vehicle that you can probably load a wheelchair into, is what I'm
Yeah.
guessing.
Um, when I included that list of the different options for getting funding, I think starting with insurance and then speaking to your provider, like your pediatrician and your therapist, to try to get letters of justification for that. I do realize that equipment is very expensive. It's very frustrating for families to be able to get the equipment that they need. So sometimes really just advocating and talking to all the healthcare professionals that you have to help you guide that process can be really helpful. And sometimes, alternative funding sources can be really useful as well, like I had mentioned in the presentation. But I do realize it can be very frustrating and convoluted. So
When you initially showed some chairs with children sitting on the floor, and
yeah,
they look like car seats. Can they be used as a car seat?
um, some of them can. We have one that looks really similar to the special tomato sitter that looks just like it but can be used in a car seat. And then we have the actual sitter that can't be used as a car seat. So it really depends on which one you get.
I guess they have
Yeah.
to be approved
You have
for.
to be crash tested and things like that. So
We've got a question, or I guess more of a comment. Many states offer beach wheelchairs for use, such as Florida. Maybe Massachusetts has a great lending program for beach wheelchairs.
oh, that's great. I
Cool
haven't
to
heard of
know.
that yet. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. So FYI to folks who are out there. Um, are there are there nonprofits that also are in the adaptive equipment lending or assistance for, financial assistance
Mhm.
that people can contact that are, maybe national programs, or is it all this state specific?
Make-A-Wish is a really great program that can help people get equipment. We've been able to work with them and they're really great. Wheel to Walk, which I included as well, can help people get equipment. Um, those are the two big ones that I'm familiar with.
Here's an important question with people starting to fly again.
Yeah.
Are the car seats uh, FFA approved? Or I think it's FAA, Federal Aviation
Yeah.
Administration approved for planes?
Yeah, we definitely have ones that are, and the special tomato car seat that was mentioned is. So that's really great and useful for people that want to travel.
Great.
Yeah.
Um, let's see. Uh, were there any other, you mentioned several places where people could look for equipment
Mhm.
online.
Mhm.
Um, are there other resources that you think are really important for parents who have children with neurodegenerative disorders
Mhm.
to to seek out specific equipment for those?
I think a lot of the equipment that I mentioned can be applied to that specific population, where maybe the muscle tone becomes weaker and they need extra support, really supportive pieces of equipment that have, built-in laterals and things like that, and the proper positioning to just keep them in alignment. So I think a lot of the equipment I mentioned would definitely apply to that population and adults too. So I know a lot of people are asking, is this okay for adults? And it's really based on measurements, not necessarily age or weight. We do get adults that are older that need the equipment and they fit into the equipment fine. So that's why the size help form is helpful, so we can go over the measurements with the families and make sure that they can fit so they don't have to make an unnecessary return and things like that.
Got a couple helpful
Mhm.
comments from Jean here that Smile Mass donates approximately 20 floating beach wheelchairs per year to public beaches
Wow,
in the New England area. Yeah,
that's great.
pretty awesome. And she and her family have used that program. And she also says that standers are
Mhm.
helpful to give weight bearing positioning.
Yeah,
So
that's definitely true. One of the pictures had a child weight bearing the standers in front of them instead of behind them, so it helps them with weight bearing. So that's a really, really good point.
how much of this equipment can you use for years and years that as the child grows into
Mhm.
adolescence and adulthood, it can be like a walker, you can raise up to so high or whatever?
Yeah, definitely a lot of the equipment I mentioned is accommodates for a lot of growth. They can be adjusted for height and width-wise they can be adjusted, but it really depends on the specific equipment that you're looking at. But a lot
Mhm.
of them are, they keep that in mind when they're designing it.
We've got a question that says that these parents are finding a lot of trouble with head control in wheelchairs,
Hmm.
car seat
Yeah.
standers, and finding something to help with head control. What do you recommend for that?
Yeah, I would definitely talk if they have an individual PT or OT or assistive technology professional that can help them with that. I noticed a lot of children that have that need help with head control. A lot of it starts with their hip position and their pelvic alignment first. Um, so that's usually where you start first, and then after that, that really helps with the head control. Sometimes reclining equipment back a little bit and giving them a little bit of a tilt can help with head control and positioning. And there are car seats that can do that. There are wheelchairs that can do that and standers. So really being able to look at the child and figuring out with a healthcare professional how to help with that is good. But a lot of it starts with the pelvis and the hips.
So, I mean, generally speaking, do people need an occupational therapist to find out what kind of adaptive equipment is most appropriate?
I think it's really helpful to speak to a PT or an OT. Both of those types of individuals can help with positioning. Um, I would definitely start there. Yeah.
Got a couple of more questions.
Yeah.
For someone who is in a wheelchair, how long should a person be standing to avoid bone issues?
Um, it's hard for me to answer that because I'm not this person's individual therapist. So it's hard for me to say what the tolerance can be. So it would be good for them to speak to their either their doctor or their PT or OT. Um, but standing definitely, as we talked about before, really helps with bone formation and all these other great physiological things that can help.
Yeah, I notice, my mom's in a wheelchair now, and when she stands,
Mhm.
I can hear her bones snapping. And
Oh
she's
goodness.
always saying, did you hear that? And I did, yeah. Is that normal?
Um, I
It's
mean,
like
I
a
think
pop sound, and I think it's from sitting so much and not using your muscles, not using your bones really, except from
yeah.
sitting. I just wondered if that was a normal thing.
I think as you age, the bones get weaker, so they could be making crackling noises and things like that. But it is really important to try to get out of the wheelchair for kids and adults and try different types of positioning just for skin integrity and sitting long term with digestion and breathing and everything like that. It's really good to be out and moving. And I think in my presentation talking about the different types of equipment that can put you in different positions or more comfortable position can be beneficial.
Here's a question. If my child can't pedal a tricycle, but they are getting too big for a bike trailer, do you know of a bigger seat or trailer for her to ride on a bike with an adult?
Um, that's a really good question. We do have a tandem bicycle on Adaptive Mall. I would have to figure out what brand it is and everything if that's what they're looking for. Um, I know balance bikes also have been really popular for children to learn how to pedal. That could be an option too, and it gives them a little more stability. So
Mhm.
those are definitely out there. But if you want to email me that question, I can definitely look on our website and see if we have something.
That'd be great. A person commented that they have a friend who uses a two-person bike where they sit side by side with their adult
Oh,
daughter and the parent pedals. So
that's really cool. I haven't seen
that's
that
pretty cool.
before. Yeah, that's great.
Yeah, I'm sure there's a lot of
Yeah, there
technology.
are all kinds of types of equipment and things, so that's really cool.
Yes. Let's see, and our session goes till noon, I believe. So if there are other questions,
Mhm.
or if you have some comments, Kenna, that you have thought of and hearing some of the questions, a lot of it seems to do with transitioning from
Mm,
growing older and also just ways of using equipment that maybe people have, and I don't know how much they can adapt those as the child ages. But I think you gave some really good questions to ask in your presentation about questions people should ask when they are purchasing something.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, and I like the idea of like how much can the person, adapt the equipment as they age.
Right.
I'm sure
Yeah.
that's much more cost effective.
Yeah, definitely. Finding something that can grow with the child is really cost effective, or even sometimes going up a size and then having a PT or OT modify the seating system so that it's a certain way that fits them. And then as they grow, then they'll fit the equipment better, if that makes sense. Some
Sure.
people want to get the special tomato sitter in a larger size so that they're a little bit too small for it now, but then eventually they'll be big enough for it. So then maybe they'll have a cushion behind their back or on the side of them. So there are definitely creative ways to, I guess, have a cost-effective approach to getting the equipment. We also have letters from physical therapy. If you look that up on Adaptive Mall, it has some resources about figuring out when is my stroller too small, or when is my walker too small, or just figuring out when do you need to size up and how you can do that. There are a lot of good resources on Adaptive Mall. If you scroll towards the bottom of the website, you'll see all the links for that. But a physical therapist wrote all those articles, so they're very helpful too.
Oh, that's why you called it letters.
Yeah,
Like a
letters from,
blog.
yeah, it's really great and it has pictures and everything. It's very user friendly. So if people find that on the website too.
I might have missed this, but is Adaptive Mall a nonprofit or is it a for-profit company?
We're just a retail company.
A retail?
Yeah, we create the special tomato products, but then we also have other brands that are on our website too.
Oh, I see. Okay.
Yeah. Mhm.
One person commented that Creative Mobility in Illinois has adaptive bicycles
Oh,
that maybe
wow.
we're checking out. Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm not exactly sure what's involved in an adaptive bicycle, but I
Mhm.
guess it's one that an individual would use. Could you elaborate on that for us?
Yeah, if they need additional support where they're while they're biking, so maybe some extra trunk support or head support, things like that, that would make it more of like an adaptive bicycle. But
I
I
see.
love how people are sharing different resources that they found. I think talking to other parents and other family members or whoever's out in your community is a really great way to start, because sometimes you don't even know that these foundations exist until you talk to somebody. So.
Right. And does insurance not cover a lot of this? Is that why the nonprofit community has stepped up?
Yeah, unfortunately, adaptive equipment sometimes has to be deemed medically necessary, and sometimes insurances are really tough with justifying that. So I think that's why a lot of families look for other funding resources. Like I said, it can be really frustrating just because a lot of insurance companies want to save on costs too. So just really have to be willing to advocate and, like I said, talk to OTs and PTs that can justify and, create letters that are really strong and show that it is medically necessary. It can be pretty tricky sometimes.
One thing that I learned too as a medical reporter for years is you should appeal. If you get turned down for something, you should file an appeal. And as you just mentioned, Canna, it really helps to have a letter from a doctor or a PT
Yeah.
or an OT saying this person really needs this. I've been turned down for various therapies, such as chiropractic, because
Hmm.
insurance didn't want to cover it for whatever
Right.
reason. And I had a doctor write and say, I think she could benefit from this, and there were several other things that I got covered. I got turned down the first time, and I
Hmm.
don't think people realize that maybe the first impulse sometimes is to say no,
Yeah.
if you're the insurance company. But if you appeal, you may, in fact, I think there's been some data that shows that people often win, and most people don't want to hassle with it.
Right. Yeah.
But
I
it can
think
be,
yeah, I think it can definitely take extra time to make an appeal, but I definitely think it's worth it. And I talked about the protection advocacy programs. I don't have a lot of personal experience with that, but they do have people that can help you make the appeal and walk you through that process so you can get that equipment.
Jean mentions in the comments here that we found it helpful to Google what are requirements for insurance approval. So a letter can be submitted that will match the points of
Yeah,
the insurance company. So that's a great tip.
yeah, definitely.
And it can really save a lot of money.
Yeah,
I was curious about Medicaid because I know those programs can vary state by state.
yeah.
And in Texas, it's a very strict program. But
Mhm.
in general, does Medicaid cover adaptive equipment?
I think, like I said, if it's deemed medically necessary, it will. But at times, people, in my experience, have had a hard time with that too. And like you're talking about, they get frustrated, and it takes a long time to get an appeal and have it approved. So
Yeah.
I did want to mention Adaptive Mall also has samples of letters of medical necessity that
Oh,
are featured, and it includes a lot of the things that the insurances are looking for these days, and it's very up to date. So that's another thing that you can find on our website, or if you want to email me, I can send that to you too.
if I were looking at your website, where would I find these sample letters?
If you go to the bottom of the page, there's a bunch of tiny little links and you should be able to find it under there. Sometimes it's hard. We have a lot of stuff on our website. So if you did want to email me, anyone can email me for those links.
That's awesome. Got a few more comments here. Let me see where children long-term support waivers help out in our state. And scholarships are worth looking for, waivers and scholarships. So
That's great.
good,
Yeah,
good
those
tip. Yeah.
yeah.
Uh, Another person writes, and I believe this is the chairman of the NBIA Board of Trustees, Disorders Association. We found our support coordinator assigned to our daughter through the state, Arizona, and was able to help us navigate the process in getting an adaptive stroller. Put us in contact with an ambulatory clinic, filed paperwork. They were amazing.
Oh, that's great.
My husband, I stand corrected. When I saw Arizona, I realized, no, that's the chairman lives in California. Apparently, I'm covering up am I hard to hear?
A little bit,
Yep,
but
sorry.
that's okay.
I need to-
Yeah, definitely. If you have a social worker or case management that can help you through the process, that's also helpful too, because they know a lot about resources that OTs don't know about. You know, they
Mhm.
are really great at helping with that. So
Great. So let's see, we're approaching the noon hour here. So
okay,
if anybody has any last minute question for Kana, lay it on us because we'll wait a minute for you to type it. Anyway, as one of Matt stated, talk to everyone on your team
yeah,
about
yeah,
this because we're all in it together and we can all
yeah,
help each other. And there's certain things that some people know that other people don't know. And once you piece it together, it's a lot to navigate, but it can be done. And I'm really pleased to hear that there's these loan programs and all of that.
yeah,
I'm sure a lot of our parents probably have equipment that they're not using that maybe somebody newly diagnosed could be helped by, and
yeah.
gives me an
That's great.
idea that maybe we should start some kind of sharing thing in the future and I'm sure parents do that offline anyway,
Yeah,
where they get to know each other and they realize, hey, I've got something you could use that I'm not using anymore because it's expensive and we
yeah.
can help each other. It's a good thing. Okay. Do you have any closing comment that you would like to, any takeaway kind of that you would like to make before
Mhm.
we close out this morning?
I think you really touched on that. I think the truth is it can be really hard to get equipment. It can be really hard to find funding, and the paperwork and everything can be challenging. But I think, like you said, just really being a strong advocate and talking to everybody on your team and not being afraid to ask for help, I think can be the big point that I want to share. And yeah,
And don't be afraid to appeal.
yeah, don't be afraid to appeal and really fight for it. So
Great. Well, thank you so much. If you would just remind people one last time of your
mhm,
email address so that they can get your list of
yeah,
references, which was really cool, that would be wonderful. So it's Kana at adaptivemall.com.
Yes. Feel free to email me any questions anyone has. I'll definitely would love to help.
Thank you so much. Excellent
Yeah.
presentation, great information, and wonderful Q&A. Thanks for all the great questions, everybody, and the
thank you.
tips. Really
Thank you
appreciate
so
it.
much.
Bye, everybody.
Bye.